Okay, hi everybody. This is Miss Smith. I am doing the audio for the My Life with Chimpanzees quiz questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read every single question and the answer choices, and they're all in this one video. So whatever question you are on, make sure that I'm reading the same question you're on. I'm going to say the question number and then read the question and the answer choices, and then you can pause me when you're ready to go on to the next question. So here we go. Question number 1. According to the excerpt from My Life with the Chimpanzees, what made the peak one of Goodall's favorite places? A. The views from the peak were pretty. B. It provided her with a view of the chimpanzees. C. The chimps that lived on the peak were friendly. D. The silence on the peak helped her think and write. Question 2. Read the following sentences from paragraph 132. That first day, we saw 2 chimps feeding in a tall tree. As soon as they saw us, they leapt down and vanished. Which sentence would be the best addition to give the reader more context to what vanished means? A. The 2 chimps were bounding towards us. B. They were completely out of sight in no time. C. They were terrified. D. We saw a pack of them in the distance and went closer to get a better view. Question 3. In the excerpt from My Life with the Chimpanzees, Goodall was happy to learn that a large male chimpanzee had visited her camp. Why is this event significant in the excerpt? A. She had begun to feel afraid of the chimpanzees. B. It supported her theory that animals are like humans. C. She had grown wary of traveling back and forth to the peak. D. It showed that the chimpanzees had begun to accept her presence. Question 4, Part A. According to the excerpt from My Life with the Chimpanzees, which word best describes the young Jane Goodall? A. Bossy. B. Patient. C. Helpless. D. Generous. Question 4, Part B. Which passage from My Life with the Chimpanzees most clearly supports the answer to Part A? A. During those months of gradual discovery, the chimps slowly began to realize that I was not so frightening after all. Even so, it was almost a year before I could approach within 100 yards. B. I carried a little tin trunk up there. In it, I kept a kettle, some sugar and coffee, and a tin mug. Then, when I got tired from a long trek to another valley, I could make a drink in the middle of the day. I kept a blanket up there, too. C. After supper, I would get out the little notebook in which I had scribbled everything I had seen while watching the chimps during the day. I would settle down to write it all legibly into my journal. D. Instead of writing the information in notebooks, I started to use a little tape recorder. Then I could keep my eyes on the chimps all the time. By the end of the day, there was so much typing to be done that I found I couldn't do it all myself. Question 6. Which of the following sentences from the text best supports the idea that living in the wild could be treacherous and cumbersome for Dr. Goodall? A. I spent 3 days in that valley and I saw a lot of chimps, but they were too far away and the foliage of the tree was too thick. B. The baboons got used to me much more quickly. They became a nuisance around our camp. C. Everything got damp and grew mold. Scorpions and giant poisonous centipedes sometimes appeared in the tent, even a few times a snake. D. These conflicts are very brutal and the victim may die. Question 7. Which of the following is the best summary for this selection? A. Jane Goodall spent several years living in the Gombe National Park where she researched the lives of chimpanzees. She chronicled her experiences in a journal and became fascinated by the similarities between the way humans operate and think with the way chimps function in the wild. Dr. Louis Leakey encouraged her in her studies even when funding was scarce. Over time, she grew to appreciate the animals she observed and even named them. Her research developed so much that she needed to use assistants and other researchers to help continue her work. B. The Gombe National Park, also known as Chimpanzee Land, is the first park in Africa specifically created for chimpanzees. Jane Goodall began her extensive research there. With the help of her mother and Dr. Louis Leakey, Goodall was able to name a variety of chimps, plants, and other wildlife. She lived in the park for more than 6 years, and her research became so popular and well known that she eventually hired an assistant and a team of researchers. She co founded the Jane Goodall Institute for Wildlife Research, Education, and Conservation. C. Gombe Stream National Park in Tanzania, Africa is best known as the site of Jane Goodall's groundbreaking chimpanzee research. The park covers only about 20 square miles, but is home to a great variety of animals. Dr. Goodall's research in Gombe was supported by the famous paleontologist Louis Leakey. D. Jane Goodall is the most celebrated primatologist or researcher of primates. Primates include apes, chimpanzees, and monkeys. She spent extended periods of time living with and observing chimpanzees in the wild. Dr. Goodall did most of her research in Tanzania at the Gombe Stream Game Reserve, now a national park, where she lived for over 6 years. Question 8. The author's main purpose for writing this selection is to A. Warn readers about the dangers of primates. B. Discuss the mysterious behavior of chimpanzees. C. Compare and contrast humans and chimpanzees. Or D. Describe her experience studying chimpanzees. Question 9. Read the dictionary entry below. Which definition best matches the way the word boar is used in paragraph 36? A. Definition 1. B. Definition 2. C. Definition 3, or D. Definition 4. Question 10. Which sentence best illustrates Dr. Goodall's passion for her research? A. At last I could make friends with the chimpanzees in my own way. B. It began to feel more like home. C. It was very important to do that every evening while it was all fresh in my mind. D. He loved and respected animals just as I did, and he made a wonderful movie. Question 11. The word impetuous comes from the French root impetuous, meaning done or given with a rush of force. Based on this root, what is the meaning of impetuous as it is used in this passage? A. Keep a promise. B. Tell boring jokes. C. Give people orders. Or D. Act without thinking. Question 12. Read the following sentence below. Suddenly, a chimp charged straight toward me. His hair bristled with rage. At the last minute, he swerved and ran off. I stayed still. 2 more chimps charged nearby. Then suddenly, I realized I was alone again. All the chimps had gone. What is the author's purpose for including this sentence in the excerpt? A. She shows that chimps have many human traits. B. She shows that chimps had accepted her. C. She shows that being accepted by the chimps meant overcoming their hostility. D. She shows that her time among the chimps was a failure because they never accepted her. Bonus question. In this text, does Goodall focus more on the chimpanzees or herself? What does this choice reveal about Goodall's interests? Respond with a minimum of 5 sentences.